A Game Worth Watching by Samantha Gudger, Chapter 1. If looks could kill, the new guy would be dead already. Emma took a step towards him, her glare firmly in place. Excuse me? Mike, the new guy, the arrogant guy, the guy who needed to learn that Saturday morning basketball game at the park didn't start with him circling Emma like he was a wolf and she was the prey. I said, you don't look like much. The disgust in his eyes was enough for Emma to know he was the kind of guy who wouldn't share the court with girls, much less play basketball with them. His arrogant smirk didn't help. Why don't you let the guys play basketball and you can cheer for us on the sidelines? Tom closed his eyes and shook his head. Jerry winced as the rest of the guys suppressed their laughter as Riley grabbed the back of her sweatshirt and pulled her away from Mike. Emma's face burned with anger, her hands balled into fists, and her mouth clamped shut to prevent a stream of vicious words from spilling out. Em, Riley said, unable to hide his smile, take it easy. Take it easy? She growled. First he says I don't look like much, and then he says I should be a cheerleader. Who does he think he is? Emma took a step in Mike's direction with the intent of having her fist speak on her behalf, but Riley yanked her back to his side. Why were the new guys always so against playing basketball with a girl? One thing that she knew for sure was that she did belong on the basketball court full of guys. If Mike wanted a cheerleader, he could put on a skimpy skirt and pom-poms and cheer for himself. Jerry cleared his throat. Now that we've all met, how about we play? He tossed the basketball to Emma and turned to Mike. And just for fun, you can guard Emma, he said, unable to hide a grin on his face. Her mouth twisted into a smile. Payback. Nice. She would love nothing more than to prove to Mike that not all girls were cheerleaders, and boys weren't the only ones who ruled the basketball court. She pulled free from Riley's grip to meet her victim at half court. Riley followed. The warning in his voice tried to pull her back. Yeah, I know, she said, waving at him. Behave. He stepped in front of her, forcing her to look at him. Actually, I was gonna say be careful. This guy looks like he could crush you with his bare hands. Emma glanced at Mike. Sure, he was the size of a lumberjack with hands as big as her head and muscles the size of her entire body, but she didn't care. He deserved to be taught a little humility. You know what they say, she said, squeezing the basketball in anticipation of the challenge. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Riley shook his head and joined the rest of the guys as they cleared the court. The guys included Riley, Tom, Jerry, Ben, Alex, Cy, Carson, and Emma. Yep, she was one of them. This fact had less to do with her being a girl and more to do with her skills on the basketball court and how hard she punched. If Mike knew that, she wouldn't be facing off with him to prove she was a basketball player, not a cheerleader. Mike noticed the guys lining up along the sidelines instead of matching on the court. Hey, what are you guys doing? I thought you were going to play. The first one's all you. Tom waved towards Emma. Consider it your initiation. Holding the ball in triple threat position, Emma stared at the eyes of her defender. Poverty child, loser, poor girl, tomboy. She was well aware of the labels people placed on her. She saw their looks as she weaved through the halls at Bradshaw High School. She heard their whisper insults, felt their judgments. In a school where 90% of the students came from families with money, lots of money, Emma stood out like a porcupine among swans, and not in a good way. Emma knew she wasn't much to look at. Boys' basketball shorts hung on her hips, her faded sweatshirt the size too small, and her blonde hair in a secured wad behind her head, the ends poking out in random directions. Yes, her family was poor. Yes, she wore her brother's hand-me-downs. Yes, most of the kids at school hated her for reasons she didn't understand. Emma didn't care. She could play basketball, and that's all that mattered to her. She glanced at Riley. He stood on the sidelines, arms crossed and eyes glued on her in case things got rough and he needed to intervene. It only happened once or twice, the new guy charging her with the intent of causing bodily harm because he couldn't take losing to a girl. Thank goodness she had Riley. Are we playing or what? Mike asked. Absolutely. She spun the ball in her hands, waiting for Mike to step up and play defense, but he kept his distance. Mike's stupidity was Emma's opportunity. From behind the three-point line, she shot the ball, her smirk in place as the ball dropped through the net. Lucky shot, Mike muttered before Tom yelled from the sidelines. Watch the long shot, she'll sink it every time. The rest of the guys laughed, knowing only too well the truth of Tom's statement. She'd scored way too many three-pointers during their games to let them forget it. Mike scowled at her, snatched the ball from the ground, and set it for his turn of offense. Revenge was written across his face. She smiled inwardly. Bring it on. He jabbed left before dribbling right. Emma shuffled her feet, staying with him. Mike attempted to cross over to change direction, a slow crossover, not between the legs or behind the back or anything more sophisticated than Basketball 101, but a crossover right in front of her. He had a lot to learn. Her hand struck out like a viper, flipping the ball away from him and into her possession. This time, when she set up at the three-point line to dive right, Mike didn't give her an extra step. He forced her left instead. Not a bad plan, but Emma didn't have a weak side, so if he wanted to get her to left, she'd go left. One dribble, two dribbles, between the legs to the right, spin move onto the left, all executed perfect in under 2 seconds. She faked the shot. Mike flew through the air trying to block the ball, but she stepped around him for an easy lay-in. The guys clapped. Mike growled. Emma grinned. It was the second basket of many. Mike and Emma battled one-on-one for the next 10 minutes. Mike desperate to beat the girl determined to prove, beyond a doubt, that she was a basketball player, not a cheerleader. Considering she outscored the guy 5-1, Emma figured she had gotten her point across, especially when Mike slammed the ball to the ground and turned to the guys. "Okay," he growled, "I get it. The chick can play." "That's my girl," Riley said with a smile, joining Emma on the court to give her a high five. The rest of the guys averted their eyes to Mike, trying not to laugh, and started picking teams. If she hadn't been so caught up in her victory and entertained by Mike's fuming over his loss, Emma probably would have seen the woman slip through the fence behind them and step onto the court. She would have sensed how her life was one moment away from changing again. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and would like to hear more, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you so happen to find yourself with your own published book and would like to submit your first chapter for a free audio cover, just email me at ebonyclock@yahoo.com with your first chapter, book cover, genre, and a brief synopsis of your book. See you next time on Ebony Clock Promotions.